Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, I would just like to note that this session is being recorded, and as part of our exhibition archive, we will be publishing it on our YouTube channels. And to welcome you to the RAI edition of Meet the Artist, the series offers a unique opportunity to hear directly from the artists featured in the exhibition, not only about the works on display, but also about the ideas, the process, and the personal experiences that shapes their practice. So today we are delighted to be joined by Rabila Kidwai. I hope I'm not butchering the last name. Who will share insights into her artistic journey, selected works, and the ways in which her experience across different cultural and geographical contexts have informed her creative approach. So, thank you for all being here, and please join me in welcoming Rabila.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining. I know some of you might still be at work, so I'm glad that you found the time. And I also want to extend my thank you to Shafina and Mina and the entire team of Risk Art Initiative for being so supportive throughout the whole process and for facilitating this channel. Um, so I'll get into it. I'm Rabita. I'm a multidisciplinary artist working with mainly with film drawings, publication, and moving image. I am currently an artist in resident at Dom Art Projects in Dubai. Um, I really gave it a fair amount of thought in terms of how I'm going to navigate my practice for today. And what I want to leave you with is a word that not only addresses the nooks and corners of my practice, but also threads them together. And that word is proximity. As an artist, I'm drawn to spaces that are proximal to the body, but also conditions that allow bodies to be in close proximity to each other. I am looking at selective, gendered and collective spaces, both within the domestic environment, also the urban environment, um, and really the whole of this interest in exploring proximity through these conditions kind of comes from my own background. I hail from I would say quite a chaotic domestic space. But when I say chaotic, I mean um, a lot of inhabitants in a tight domestic environment together, which kind of leads to these interesting relationship with the space, with each other, um, you end up forming this relationship with clutter, and being in and around in again like close proximity. So these are early experiences kind of led me to the medium and also the scale I worked with. I've been working initial in a lot of my initial works were very kind of small scale. I was working with the spontaneous documentation through drawing, capturing kind of everyday moments, undisturbed, unplugged from their original settings. No one, I say no one, was sitting for me. I was drawing, moving people as they are moving through their day, and catching them in ink as it was happening. So it was also very, this medium has been also very spontaneous and kind of works with the restraint that I was surrounded by, and didn't require access. So it has been a very big part of the practice. And even though I was responding to the visceral, I was somehow still able to maintain a certain ethnographic distance, even though what I was mainly my subjects were family, people I knew, people who I was very intimately connected to and with. Um, and from here on, I think is a night and is a good time to kind of uh, also present you some of the works. Oh, hold on. You. Yeah. So this is these are the series of drawings that I created, and I would say one of the first works that kind of led me into this direction. Also was a documentation of the apartment that I was living in, and these are very very small scale as well. Um, and then there were a lot of them. And the whole process was very editorial in a way. It was very much defined by my design process. So I created a lot of them, and then I ended up picking and choosing which worked and which didn't, because I was drawing so quickly that it kind of sometimes I wasn't even thinking. So it was then I was left with a lot of works, and then editing kind of became part of the process. Yeah. Now pivoting into the series of works and the drawings that I created for the exhibition under the same sky. Um, so Mina and I were in conversation, and and she was wanting me to look at objects or found objects or objects that I could purchase that would connect me or ground me to the UAE as home. And I just couldn't connect with this idea of something bought. And and upon thinking, kind of immediately came to this idea of these makeshift laundry stands that my mom would just put together, or we just put together just a chair and a rod, two chairs and a rod, just different objects, put them together just to put laundry on them. And this was the case uh, with us in an apartment that we lived for over a decade with no balcony. So this was just an everyday kind of uh, resourcefulness, I would say. That kind of this whole idea of putting together these composite forms, um, then it was in I was kind of working in favor of these composite forms for the series. So instead of highlighting the product, I was highlighting the tactic, and it was again, it was true to me. It was grounded in my own experience of UAE as home, of the gendered household, and also this intervention really emerged from the idea of feminist ethics of care. And also, I read something by Rabali Gupta, and I'm reading this one because I want to get it right. And she quotes, repair is a continuous process requiring a profound intimacy between the caretaker and the cared for. So I found that very, very relevant to the work. And then this piece kind of mirrored this everyday resourcefulness, a kind of a vernacular of resourcefulness, specifically in a gendered household, and also a kind of comment to a demographic that belonged to the more crowded part of the city, um, and hence the proximity. Um, and then moving into, I'll go through some of the works that I did. The drawings on the left-hand side are footnotes to the drawing. So basically, they didn't make it into the exhibition, but these are sketches that I did in parallel to the drawings, but actually afterwards. But they were meant to be like manuals. So I was trying to kind of, in a quirky way, imply that these composite forms that I've created are objects, and then these are kind of manuals for them. And they didn't get exhibited, but I'm putting them together in a book form. So I'll have like almost 160 sketches of these, and then kind of combine in a book. I think launching soon very much at Dom Art Projects.
Uh, Rabila, sorry, is it possible that we can see the sketches? Because I
Yes,
don't think, yeah, we can
these are
see them.
bigger ones.
Ah,
They're
okay.
they're tiny, so I have a few of them which are quite big as well. So I
Okay,
think
so
this.
it's not in this in the presentation.
Sorry?
Is it in the included in the presentation or?
Yes, yes, yes. It is like so. It's basically the drawings and then the footnotes for it. So yeah,
Okay.
the reason I put them together is because I wanted to show that they were meant to be.
Mhm.
Um, they were meant to be seen together. So these smaller sketches to be seen as footnotes to the main drawings. But
Okay.
obviously, like for presentation purposes, I kind of put them on one separate page as well to show.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. No worries. Okay.
Uh, so there are some of these, and they're really looking at these theory of affordances,
See,
which talks about. Sorry.
Rabila, the drawings are not on the screen and they're not visible in the presentation currently.
Oh, you
Yeah,
can't see her.
no, you can't see them.
Oh, that's weird. So you could see throughout, but you could see
No,
the
we
PDF.
only
We
saw
could
the
see a
quote.
quote.
Yeah,
That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now I was going through some of the works. Wait, let me share again. Can you see now?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
You,
I'll go full screen mode.
Is it
I'll run through
full
it quickly.
screen?
I think you guys then didn't see a lot of the didn't work, yes?
Uh,
No, we
we
could
could.
see your screen just now. Yes, we can see it. Why
No.
don't you run through it again for us, please?
Yeah. You see me scrolling, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so these were the first drawings that I was talking about. These were the documentation of the apartment. Like I said, I was working very small scale. So this is 1/3 of an A3 paper. So that's very, very small. Um, and a lot of the drawings you'd see kind of these forms because within that apartment I was sitting in exactly one space while I was drawing. So a lot of the times there is me against somebody who's kind of lying in front of me, but on the floor. So like I then if you notice the whole series, you see a lot of these bodies kind of in this position. Because like I said, I wasn't moving around. I was in one still place all the time. Um, and then these are the drawings from the new from the exhibition Under the Same Sky, which are the composite forms, and the series is called A Typology of Makeshift Laundry Stands. No, A Typology of Laundry Stands. Sorry. And these are the footnotes. So these are the kind of smaller sketches that I will be compiling into a publication. And the whole idea was that they're supposed to be like manuals for the implied objects. Okay. And then the next project, which is also a part of the exhibition, it's called Couch Dwellers. It's a film. I do want to show you, I do want to end with a short clip of the film. But I can't do too much of it because I don't want it to be recorded or available online. But this film is coming really from a space of from a place of heart. It actually is about it is very much based on a memory, a very early memory of coming to the UAE. So the narrative goes like this: there are five women who enter a home, and it's not their own home, and so they're prolonged guests in somebody else's place, in somebody else's space, and because they're so conscious of occupying such a big space in somebody else's home for a prolonged period of time, they're trying they try to diminish their own presence within their home, and so they confine themselves to a couch. And the whole film unfolds on the couch because they don't get up, and they want to diminish their own presence. But something or the other will keep happening as day and night kind of unfold. There were night sequences, or everyday things would happen, like they spill something on the couch and then they're trying to maneuver, but they don't ever leave the couch. And so there are in what this film did, for me, and it very much kind of was coming from my experience of this performance that I did, wherein I created this bodysuit. I wore it and I performed in it. And that kind of became a methodology for a narrative that I had for a very long time. And I thought, you know what, this could be the language that I create the film out of. And what it does is, and I'll quickly move into the clip, is that it made the gesture the story. It made the idea that these many bodies are kind of negotiating space with each other over this small couch. It was happening on its own because the film's so gestural. And it kind of did it for me. It kind of conveyed this very abstracted idea um, of proximity, through bodily gestures, without even a script. So yeah, so that's what I want to leave you guys with. Bear with me. I do want to play a very, very short clip. Um, just a second. I think I can do the full share, and I can do it this way. So just to give you context, this is the scene where it's nighttime and the bodies are kind of slowly maneuvering themselves to sleep. Did I stop sharing, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's it. Really, these are the main two works that you'll find in the show. Please do try to go and see. Uh, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them on.
Thank you so much, Rabila. Thank you for taking the time to share, a bit more about your artistic practice, but as well more about you and your works here presented at RAI, Under the Same Sky. We are open for questions. If anyone would like, you can either uh, turn on your audio or you could drop in the chat and we can answer them. Okay.
maybe just a few thoughts that I have for the
Yeah.
practice, not necessarily some questions, I think. But I was also, as an artist, I have just been thinking about this while listening to you, that the drawings that you do, they are almost converting into a 3D form when you do the film or also the performance. So it really takes over into that. I mean, so the 2D 3D is also quite mixed, but I really enjoyed that the urge. I mean, it's also a thought and a question at the same time, that sometimes the mediums do come to you, like you wanted to create that film and the performance, which really came out like it feels like it's coming out from your drawings or the works that you do in ink. And how did you get pulled towards these mediums is also something, because just thinking about it, that uh, sometimes do the medium come to you, or you were being very driven to like do this film and within this manner and the way you have just done it. So what makes it different, like working on a surface or creating almost like a surface that holds space in a 3D environment?
Yeah. That's a very interesting question, Mahira. It kind of the transition was quite natural, specifically because what I was looking at with this film was a narrative. So then that kind of dictated me, maybe, the medium should
Yeah,
be the film,
yeah,
because I had a story versus the drawings, which are either documentations, or they're replicating like an exercise of capturing something, but
yeah,
but there's not a start to end narrative, right? But
yeah,
but it just felt a very natural outcome. And with regards to the translation of the mediums, right?
mm,
I think I was very interested in this once the performance happened, and it was a very kind of a serendipitous kind of a moment in the practice where I felt um, it's an exact it's an exact kind of an expression of the drawing, but with a lot more control. So when I was kind of experimenting with different mediums as well, I also tried stop motion through like
yeah,
working with claymation, right? Which was also kind of giving me the same density and the same kind of weightedness in the body when it was dark and when I was kind of making it black and white, all of that. But this was providing me the kind of control over what the body was doing, a whole lot more than a stop motion. So then this is how kind of I ended up choosing this language for the film. Yeah,
yeah. No, that's
yeah.
interesting. I was thinking about the stop motion right while we were speaking, that why haven't you tried, like, why didn't you
Mhm.
get into that? But what is also very interesting is the like when you do these kind of stop motions, they give you a chance for fiction a lot.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
when you are inhabiting the whole bodysuit and you're performing and the whole things becomes like a film and like real size models doing the thing for you, that fiction element is completely removed from there,
Yeah.
and it just becomes very much real in time,
Yeah.
just like
Real in
that.
time. Yeah, real in time, and also like very experimental, directorially, right? Like so
Yes,
for me, the biggest understanding of filmmaking with this particular, I would say it's a very experimental project. What really hit it off for me was this idea of kind of letting a scene unfold, letting the bodies kind of do just like take away the narrative through their gestures without a lot of kind of editing, without a lot of like intervention of the
yeah,
person who's directing. So it was the shots that I just let the bodies do whatever they
yeah,
wanted, and in terms of like maneuvering themselves over this little confined space,
mm,
that those were the strongest moments.
wow,
Yeah, so in a way, yeah, that was. And And also I think it also kind of speaks to world making, my practice.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
it's almost this it is within this world building. I have the parameters as as the conditions that I'm interested in, which are restrained, which are proximal, like I said. And within these parameters, this world is kind of only about these certain an exploration of just these gestures of
Yeah.
living, right?
Yeah, that's
um
very true. Like it got me back to the whole point of existing in the crowd also.
yes.
So like
Yeah.
when the crowd is literally there and you're making the film about them, so like it really becomes about that. So it just comes back to the whole, yeah, like your
Yeah.
concerns and yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for a lovely presentation, Rabila.
Thank you so much.
Um, okay, I have a question. Looking at this point in your practice, what kind of ideas or directions feel most exciting for you to explore next? Are you still looking into these tied domestic spaces, or are you going to be exploring different aspects of domestic life that you're interested in?
Mhm. Okay, so at the residency, I am working with a publication project. The project is very much surround like the what I'm interested in within this project is also crowds. So I'm
Hmm.
still very much
Yeah.
within that thread, but I have moved away from the domestic space into an urban, very much
Hmm.
an urban environment. And it also again speaks to the fact that I've had a very, very long history of commuting. From Ajman to Abu Dhabi,
Hmm.
I've covered it all, metros and buses and whatnot. So I've had my fair share of crowds, and I have had my
Yeah.
fair share of proximity in an urban space. So that's what I'm like hoping to explore with this publication that I'm working. It's very research based, but
Mhm.
also like I don't think I can ever process anything without drawing. So it'll very much it'll very much have some moments of me as a maker within the publication, but it's also there's also a good amount of documentation. There's also a good amount of research being put in to like field work that I'm doing at
Mhm.
certain areas within this within the cities. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Aisha asked, could you tell us more about the process of creating the film?
Yeah. So
I
Aisha
mean,
was in the film.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Aisha was one of the actors in the film. So thank you, Aisha, for the question. The process, like I said, I think initially because I'd done the performance, so I knew in terms of like production wise what I needed. Yes, yes, it took away my life kind of working on five body suits. It seemed less, but it took 3 months of
Oh,
3 months actually creating the props, everything, like just to kind of
yeah.
build that the different scenes and what it required. And for me it was important that everything was done by me, but also done in the way that I create. So that was important. It was also important for the film actually. So that and then yes, I tried to kind of do it in a way that I understand the way I watch. I tried to kind of create storyboards based on that, but I actually ended up realizing that what I was creating was very, very experimental. And so once I let the what do you call the main sort of energy, when I let it go, and I let the figures do it for themselves, that's when I realized, like, maybe that's the kind of director I should be, who does very
Mhm.
less work. Yeah, does most of the work in production and then just
Yeah.
stands. So, yeah, I thought, why not? Why not? This is not bad. This is not a bad direction to have a sort of a characteristic as a as a filmmaker. So
Yeah.
I really actually love to explore this further. Yeah.
Was this film part of the process when you were in your residency for SIF?
This was Sieve. This was the
Okay.
final project at Sieve. And if you've seen the Sieve studios, they were quite huge and large, but I kind of took up every inch of that space to make this happen. No kidding, they'll I'm sure like the other fellows
Yeah.
will say the same. So yeah. Um, there's something Meher said, I think maybe you want to read that,
Yeah.
Sana.
Meher said, when you move away from the indoors to the crowd outdoors, it also asks the question of domesticity. What is the domestic to? Not to reduce it, but to expand it into the intimate that we'll find outdoors or globally and also with the strangers.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Because I think, again, it's just this idea of proximity that brings it together, regardless, stranger or not. Sometimes you are stuck in a crowd with a whole bunch of strangers, but you're very, very close, intimate, in a very close, you are very intimate, involved, just spatially very intimate. That's what I mean to
Hmm.
say, right?
Yeah.
Like, even though you're strangers, but you do process it like that. And sometimes, like I've had this within my publication project, there is a section of the project that explores. This section is called Collective Bed, and it's inspired by my bus commutes from Sharjah to Abu Dhabi. So when
Mhm.
you are in that bus, you are stuck in a very small
Yeah.
container
No.
for three
Yeah.
hours. For 3 hours, and literally, what are you doing? Sleeping. Complete strangers next to you, and every day it's a new stranger. But the way and sleep
Yeah, it's
is
like a
such an
cycle.
intimate thing. It's such a private gesture. Like it's such a
Yeah.
private thing. But where are you doing it, and how long you're doing it, and just this whole idea of like and what I'm really trying to do, I don't know if I'd ever be able to do it, but I'm trying to get like actual CCTV footage for a whole bunch of months as documentation from these buses. I'm not sure if I can,
Oh.
but I'm really trying because you know what the interesting thing about these commutes was that the bus starts to move half an hour in. There is an exact time
Hmm.
when people start to drift off, and there is an exact time when they start to wake up. And I'm very curious what that looks like.
Hmm.
Uh, because I've never been able to really document. I know it happens, but I've never been able to document because it just feels the camera feels very, very, in a way, it feels like you're invading
Yeah.
their privacy. You can't really do that at that time. But as an artist, I know it happens. So I'm just hoping for that CCTV footage. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a very interesting look into, these spaces that we're in, whether like these outdoor crowded spaces and how you look into it. And,
Yeah.
like a lot of people could relate to it as well. As
Yeah.
someone that takes the bus on a daily, I also have
Yeah.
these thoughts in my head as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to get these videos, I'm rooting for you for that. So
Really?
it'll be an
Yes,
interesting
for sure.
experience.
Yeah, and also when you say that you can relate to it, I can tell you for a fact because I've presented this project in multiple shapes and formats to different people over the course of the residency. There's a lot of people who will say, I don't want crowds, I hate crowds, and I am actually rooting for crowds within this narrative that I'm building. Um, but there's so many people who are just opposed, like they have such a they don't feel very good about it as well,
Yeah,
and it is a difficult thing to accept as well. Like
yeah,
do I want part of a crowd. No, right? I'm also very interested in looking at absence of crowds, and I'm also looking at spaces within the city that where crowds never form.
Mhm.
And then what is the implication of that absence, or that absence of bodily collision? What does that do? So I'm kind of looking at different aspects of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
guys.
Thank you,
Um,
Rabila. If anyone
thank you.
else has any, Aisha said, could you tell us more about the different publications you have worked on and their significance in your practice?
The different publications that I've up until now that I've worked for were with other artists. So there were always like collabs, and I've always kind of taken the position of a designer.
Mhm.
One of the ones that was a very big, was a very dear project to me was with Nahala, for rewilding the kitchen, which was quite a long, big project of hers,
Mm,
conceived by her as well. And I think what publications generally have taught me is that it's not a solo medium, that collaboration is bound to happen regardless. Like I'm even with me uh, as an artist working on a publication, so I'm not I could take many roles. I could design it as well, and have the do all aspects of it, but it's not solo in so many shapes and formats. You really need to be out there to in order to kind of bring in work that kind of can be sifted through a certain methodology for it to become a book,
mm,
right? So it's not a small feat. Like it cannot happen solo. So I'm really exploring these kind of conversations as part of the of my of this whole publication experience. And in the past I've been more kind of a designer kind of a position,
mhm.
so there was a lot less to explore. But with my own, I think that horizon is kind of much widened a lot
Yeah.
for me as an artistic medium. So I hope I answered your question.
And if no one has any more questions, maybe we can conclude the talk.
Thank you so much,
Uh,
Sarah,
thank you
for
so much, Rabila.
organizing this. This is really special.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, we've learned a lot today. I know we've learned a lot about you and your practice, which was very much interesting. And I'm looking forward to the other works that you'll be working on. And thank you
Yeah.
everyone who joined us. Our next Meet the Artist will be this Friday. We have Anne Marie. So if you guys would like to join us for the next one, please do so. And thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.